No, you can do that. Nothing done enough.
Here, how's what time? Oh, fuck it. Okay. Fucking bullshit. Oh, look here, look those. What is that? Oh, poor birds. That's all we need in this colour, really. Oh, they come up each year once they're established. No problem, you don't have to worry about it. I don't think anything. Oh. Oh, please, give me a break. Albert, come on, open it. I have an appointment to see a Dr. Jolly at 12:30. Ronan Blaney. Give him a call out. I need to have to meet him with someone else. Two people. I forget the name of the second one.
You hear it, you become this.
Miss ID. Yeah.
Time.
Where's this Dr. Johnny? Because Dr. Johnny's supposed to be here, and if I'm late,
I've let him know that you're here, sir.
and
Sure he
there's
is.
someone else here with him.
Sophia?
Who's Sophia?
Sophia Kramarki.
Is that her over there?
No, no, she's one of us. Let her know you're here.
Okay, I'll go outside and I'll wait. There's Dr. Jolly's coming from the other building. Did you open the door? Bull. Oh fuck, what's wrong?
No.
A terrible way to do a audit or complaint, asking someone to DIY something and they're not a professional. It's disgusting. DIY something and you need a lawyer, you need a price water. What's it called? Price waterhouse health auditor or something. It's something who would he's built a DIY solution and then you're blamed if you're substandard for something that's unfair for you to be asked to do. Anyhow, here it goes. I sent you the mediation because I don't have a power advocate with me.
Right.
Because the last one I took with me didn't note-take.
Right.
And she didn't note-take. Mr. Gorgas said previous to something I said years ago, one sentence out of context. We have to take this, and it's a joke. It's like the Maudsley. Seriously.
Right.
And it was an absolute joke. So it threatened me at the mediation meeting, but there wasn't a problem because the auditor, well not the auditor, whatever you call one of those people, the advocate couldn't advocate, but she could support note taking, but she never note took. So I had my leg to stand on. Oh shit. Well, these are terrible. Do you mind if
Do you want to record the meeting?
Yeah, I have to. Yes. With modern technology, wonderful.
Never works, does it?
It never bloody works. You know, you use this bloody thing. You see what happened is the last one I
I
screwed
don't
up.
think it works very reliably, that's the problem.
It never does, so I had to get one of these things.
Yeah.
Ah, go ahead, man.
Oops. Oh. Yes, that's a sick rescue there.
Hi, I don't think we have met.
Oh, we will talk in a minute.
Okay.
I have to make sure that I get everything correct. My eyesight's not as good as it used to be. Okay. Let's see. Well, that should work. So I do something like this, right? I leave that there. And then I put this here. It's supposed to work. Hopefully.
Maybe because it needs to be the three of us, it should be in
In the middle, something like that. Okay, the way it's done is very simple. It was unfair for you to do a breakdown on what I said to you that was very simple. So what you did on a basic report was, you shrunk something very simple. You used the sublime to the ridiculous. And you reduced something. You did a shrink on something very basic that didn't need to be shrunk.
Right.
So I shrunk your shrunk. You did a breakdown on what I said, and I broke down your breakdown, and now it can't be broken down any further. So there is no in between an interpretation. Now I did this in the form of an email, and did you get the email I sent?
Yes, I think the email was passed on, yes.
That was the mediation presentation.
Right. Okay, so do you want me to respond to that? Or
Well, I've got
say a
it
bit
in.
more, or-
I've got it 60 points, and I've got it all the points that was sent to you in written form on an email, and each form there was an explanatory commentary on each point, and that was an audio.
Right.
So if you don't have it now, you can call it up on your
I
computer.
haven't listened to any audio. We don't take audio tapes and things like that as part of the process when we need to write.
Well, no, it's an open process.
Right.
It's very informal. And now I'm going to have to go through.
And then I understand the audio really. That's what we were told, it was difficult to make
It
sense.
wasn't, I did an MP3.
Right,
An MP3 means I used up around 3 times as much megabytes
right,
because the quality is perfect.
right.
And I listened to it each time before I sent it.
I
Anyhow,
think the point about the data that was sent was that that's just the raw data on the diagnoses of patients within the trust of various conditions.
and what was the actual, where was the description come from?
It comes from the computer. It's just a description from the
No,
computer,
the actual,
data computer.
you know the way you have something like BSIA standard, and that's one description or accepted standard for looking at something. What was the standard of those mental illnesses that it came from? What standards
Well,
did you
the
use?
standard that's used in making diagnoses, that conventionally it's accepted, is what's called the 10th edition of the International Classification of Diseases.
Okay, I haven't a clue about that. What yours was mental health?
It's the 10th edition of the International Classification of Diseases, which includes both physical and mental health diagnoses.
Well, homelessness was amongst one of them. How is that a disease?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure why that put it in there. It may be a descriptor that's in the international classification. It may be just another factor that was included in the presentation in addition to the diagnoses. But it isn't really a medical diagnosis, as you're saying. It's
Yeah,
homelessness.
okay. Anyway, I'm looking now. I have to go to my paperwork because if you look on the email, you will get a written account on the email broken down into points of the criticisms I have of your response, and on top of that you'll have an audio commentary in each of those, and that was my presentation. I
Right.
expected you to bring that here with you today, or to access it
Well,
on
I'm
my
happy
laptop.
to respond to the concerns that you had. I mean, I am familiar with your concerns, so I mean.
Well, what I need is,
Perhaps
For
the
me-
whole idea of this meeting is to kind of try and resolve any outstanding issues. I don't think we're planning to change the report in any way. But
Okay,
maybe if
well-
we explain things more fully to you, it might make more sense to you.
might make more sense to me. Okay, the only way I could get to this mediation from Susie Payne was if I did a written critique of your
Yeah.
response. Now, the written critique I did of your response was too basic. I had to back up what I said, so I had to explain it.
Right.
So I put it forward an email, each bit in 5 parts. 5 points of critique, and then there'd be 5 audio files
But
fully
it was
explaining each point.
Right.
Did you listen to the audio?
No, I didn't get the audios. I only got the email.
You didn't get the audio?
Yeah.
I sent by chance, I guessed your email account, because Susie Payne is susiepayne.wlmht, so I just put in anthonyjolly.wlmht.
It's not my account.
Well, I know, it was worth a try.
Yeah.
Anyway, I told Susie Payne to forward it to you, and I
Right.
believe she did.
I didn't get a whole series of audios. Did you get audios? No. We got the written concerns, but audios we haven't got.
Okay, I need to know various things. This is a load of nonsense. I'm going to have to read through this thing now and be stupid. And Dr. Karashi, let's see, is this the right one? This is terrible. Oh, this is a monthly report. Oh, this is bloody terrible. How do you live with all these reports? Here's one. Terrible.
It could be good if we could try and focus down on the issues you wanted to raise, really.
I already done that on a mediation
You want to
presentation. A mediation presentation that I spent a week putting together to cut down on the time. So you'd look at the points,
Right.
and then in your earpiece you get an audio commentary.
Do you want me to respond then to some of the concerns that
I want you
raised?
to respond to the whole mediation
Right.
presentation.
Right. Well, I haven't got any audios to respond to. But
You
I
do,
can
because they're
respond.
included in the email. You know in the
I don't think
email,
I've got audios.
do you know in the email when you got all the points for 64 points, but did you look at the email?
I looked at the email, yes.
Do you know the bit at the bottom, the 5 points at the bottom? Well, you know the bits at the top, the little squares, and beside it there's like a music symbol.
I don't think that came through. Did
They
you
would
see
have come
that?
through.
No, I did not.
They couldn't have got deleted in the email, because they're part and parcel of the email. The only way they could get deleted,
When it was forwarded, it might have been.
it wouldn't have been deleted when it was forwarded.
Well, I don't recall that.
Okay, can I use that computer there?
No, I didn't. We can't really do that at the moment. I haven't got my card to get access to it at the moment.
Just because you're a professor and you're
But what we can do is go through your concerns.
you're a professor who knows better than the Maudsley, and now all of a sudden you came down in the last shower. Okay. It's called being stupid to be smart. That's what crooks usually do.
I mean, presumably you've got concerns you want to raise. Maybe if I could respond to the concerns that you raised, and we could have some kind of dialogue about things. Because I know you were concerned about the dual diagnosis, about having two diagnoses, for example.
Yeah, there is no dual diagnosis. There is one diagnosis, there's Maudsley. I would like for you to explain to me how you're not happy with the Maudsley.
Well, the Maudsley only met you once, I think, didn't they? Or they didn't for one, and I think the doctors that have been looking after you here have been looking after you for many years, and they had access to all your medical records. The Maudsley Hospital seems to have made a decision based upon, one contact with you plus talking with a worker who said that you never experienced any hallucinations, which was actually incorrect. So I think they jumped to a conclusion rather too hastily, frankly. That's what we think.
Okay, I have a number of them.
That's
Okay.
Then, unfortunately, the Maudsley Hospital made their decision about your diagnosis without any access to any records.
There's various things around there. I did this all on my presentation. Why haven't you got access to my mediation presentation? Will you?
I've seen your emails.
Yes. Will you respond? The audios are included.
Right. I'm not familiar with any audio.
I am not familiar with any audio either.
Okay, I need to know two things.
Right.
Your name is Doctor. You're 60. You've been working here for 40 years. You've been working here since 1983, correct?
1980,
No.
80, I think.
1980. All right. That's not 43 years. What is that? That's 33 years. And you had around 10 years experience before you got your toolbox.
No, that was all of my experience, really, including, I was a trainee here, so...
Well, you were training here as well. I thought you trained up to the age of 30 and then you walked into a hospital or something.
Yeah, well, it can be...
I'm mixing it up.
Start working in hospitals a bit younger than that, really, in their 20s.
Okay.
But
So
maybe we could, it seems to me that the issues...
how can we never see you here? Do you diagnose patients that come in here and you?
Yes, we do, yes.
Yeah, but you singular.
Yes,
You do it singularly.
sometimes, yes.
Sometimes, okay. What do you do at the moment? At the moment, what is your job title?
I work in two teams. One is the early intervention in psychosis team, and the other one is the Hammersmith and Fulham assessment team. So in the assessment team, I do general psychiatric assessments, and in the first episode psychosis team, we deal with new cases of psychotic illnesses.
Okay, when you do the psychosis teams, did you set up these teams?
I did, yes.
So that means that you're an overall policy maker.
Well, in small measure, yes, you could say that.
Okay, so you set up the policy. Okay, so you're a policy maker, which means criticism of policy is something you have to deal with. Okay, I still can't find anything I'm looking for. This is absolutely terrible. I came in here with a written mediation and a...
Where is it then?
It's on the computer, if I can
Right,
access
you
it.
didn't come in with it, if it's on the computer.
Well, I came in with it, I came in with it sent to you,
Right.
or whatever. It doesn't mean
I don't know whether it might be sensible to maybe, make another
Postpone?
time with...
No, it isn't.
We can see if we can find
I want to get
these
this mediation
audios.
out
We
of the
can
way.
make it another time and
Oh,
see
you
if
have
we
the
can find
audio.
these audios.
I can send it to you later on today.
Right.
Is there any point of having any discussion today about the diagnosis?
There is a big point. What is your name?
My name?
Comfy or something.
Sorry, I'm Sofia Plumaki. I'm the acting service manager here in Hammersmith and Fulham.
Okay, when you're here now, you're here as part of this complaint. And dealing
Well,
with
I'm
the
part of
complaint.
the mediation process.
Yeah.
I've been asked to attend.
So I have
this
to attend in
meeting.
front of the panel. So you're not here to analyse me in any way.
It's not part
No,
of any
it's not
treatment or
it's not
anything.
part of
No,
the
it's
treatment,
just
is
really
it?
to deal with your concerns, really. Because, you know, raise concerns about the report, so there's a chance for you to kind of describe them and discuss,
That's
and
right.
for us to respond to the concerns that you raised. And the concerns that, as I understood it, were to do with your unhappiness about the, you know, us making a diagnosis of schizophrenia as well as one of Asperger's syndrome. And also you had some concerns particularly about the data that was produced from the computer, that it underrepresented the number of people that might potentially have a diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome in Hammersmith and Fulham.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I think the person who gave you the statistics gave you the wrong statistics. And the reason I think that, oh Jesus, it's very, very simple. The reason I think it is there are only 40 cases or 60 cases of autism for the whole of this part of London. Now this part of London is
Well, I'm sure there are many more, but they're the only ones known to the trust. They're the ones that are known to the trust. Most people with Asperger's syndrome don't necessarily have any contact with mental health services.
Oh no, that's autistic in general.
Mm.
Oh here, I don't want this numbers.
Yeah, many.
Absolute disgusting.
Most of the services for people with Asperger's syndrome and autism are in the voluntary sector. You know, so that they're not necessarily going to have contact with them.
Can I ask a question? Do you know why people bleach with a type of empathy? As if I hear your pain, but real empathy means you do something about it. So they bleach as if they hear your pain and there's a problem. And then of course the joke, they don't do anything. Okay, here goes. Various things. Number one, a social worker put me into a place where he said, I heard voices. Now, I tricked him, the manager of the place, a year later, to give me a copy of something he tried to make me sign, to say I hear voices. In this bit here, he's trying to get me to say I hear voices. Now, at the end bit, there's a signature. There was a problem, I refused to sign it, and I ran off with a piece of paper. Why have you got staff lying about saying we hear voices and we don't?
I don't know, I could only go by the record really. I wasn't there. And I suppose I have to. This is a record from a separate service. This is a mental health
But
service
Pathways
record.
is keying in
Yeah.
to housing, and you get the information. You can't help what you do, because you can only do the information you're provided.
That's right, yeah.
Now, the information is
And that's always
unreliable.
the problem in looking back many years to things, you know.
No, the problem is basically companies like Pathways earn the money off open categorisation,
Right.
and you should take that into account when somebody's in front of you.
You say that
Pathways, by
they,
the way, Pathways is just named for move-on accommodation. It's just a council label for how they house people.
you're saying that they pushed you or maybe falsely declared that you were hearing voices because they could get more money or something from
I
your
don't know what
case.
the motivation was, but we've been trying to ram it down the throat for years. Look,
Right,
there's the line
right.
saying I hear voices. This bit
You've
here,
written
look.
there you didn't hear it, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a nonsense here about buying a bike. And he said it was to sign a receipt.
Right.
And at the very end,
The trouble with this is, you see, I don't know when you wrote this and so on,
I didn't
when you
write
wrote
it.
this commentary.
the actual
Yeah,
typing,
this commentary of here
Oh, I
was
just
written
did
all
that a
over
week
it.
ago.
A week ago,
I
yeah.
sent it out.
The trouble is, you know, I mean, if we were to,
There's no signature at the end.
if you just said,
Signed.
you know, I mean, the trouble is, you see, if we work by that logic, we could say, oh, if you just said, oh, I've never had a mental illness, I've never had any symptoms, we just have to then erase the entire record and say there's never anything wrong with you, it was all a big mistake. But unfortunately, the record shows that you were reported to experience all kinds of symptoms in the past, which would be consistent with a diagnosis of schizophrenia. The thing is that schizophrenia is not a type of person, it's an illness, it comes and goes. One of the things I mentioned in the report is that, you know, you may be very well in many ways now and not have those symptoms anymore. It's not a kind of person, you know. Maybe that's a problem from the past, perhaps at the moment. that we can't simply erase the record and say you didn't have those symptoms when they're all reported in the notes.
Okay, as part of a care plan agreement, my GP has to be copied into it so she knows what's going on.
And yes, that's what should happen really.
And there's no
ideally.
such thing as her being copied in late when she demands it.
Well, I suppose that can happen if the paperwork hasn't gone out in time.
But there's no such thing as years later she asks us to send it to her and it's okay. Here I have a copy of my GP not being copied in, and you can read the various bits of handwriting. There's a GP. That's an illegal care plan agreement. And they're saying the GP is responsible for illegality because they didn't tell her.
This is a fax cover sheet.
Yes. He forgot that the fax was scanned. He thought that just the care plan went to computer, but the fax cover sheet was scanned and went on top of the care plan. And there's the
It's
illegal
a
care
fax from
plan.
your care coordinator to the GP saying that no letter was sent out regarding the care program on the 8th of November 2011, and he's enclosed the care plan.
Okay.
That's what it's a fax cover sheet. Yeah.
Okay. What he's done is everything that they were doing wrong, I couldn't prove to my GP they were doing wrong because they had to tell the GP what they were doing, and they weren't sending the GP a copy. So I got the GP to get a copy of my care plan.
You should have got a copy directly, really.
I never did.
Right.
And that's all covered there. You can read all this nonsense if you want. There's stuff that's in green writing.
That's a care plan here now, so.
It's an illegal care plan.
Right.
Because Dr. Qureshi said I heard voices in, 2010, September, when Nicola Wakem was there, and she can verify I never said I heard voices. And a copy of that care plan session or meeting with my doctor would go to my GP. She never sent a copy because it was a lie.
Yeah. The care plan doesn't really consist of details. The care plan doesn't really consist of details of symptoms, really. It's not the right document for that. Care plans really are there for detailing the interventions that are being made by the service. So they were not necessarily going to contain information at all about symptoms of psychosis or otherwise, really.
Okay.
And there aren't any descriptions of any such symptoms here. It's really what the care plan talks about is the interventions that are being provided to you by the service. And that's listing them here, really. And who's responsible and what the hopes are that might be achieved from those interventions.
Anyhow, these care plan agreements that we go to periodically aren't simply interventions. We have to be there periodically, and we have to do it by law. So I don't know if it's debatable, it's just what the law states.
Okay.
Not all running nonsense. And number 3, you got this in the form of a spreadsheet. Now,
That's the information that we sent here, is it?
that is the information that you sent me. This is IC, it's 2012, it's up to date.
Right.
Now,
It's the last year, really. It's what we got asked them to send you was the breakdown of all the different diagnoses that were made by the trust in the last year, because your complaint said that everybody was diagnosed as suffering from schizophrenia.
too many. Okay, it's 2 or
Your
3 different
complaint.
things, but it's 2 or 3
So the
different.
idea was to show you that there were a range of different kinds of diagnoses that were made.
Okay, there's various things. You got simple schizophrenia. That couldn't be 21 and that's a mistake. It was 7. Simple schizophrenia, is that even legal to diagnose that?
There's still a category within the 10th edition of the International Classification of Diseases.
But using
But it's one that, there's a kind of reluctance to make that diagnosis.
No, I think is it not illegal to make?
It's not illegal, no.
No, but like,
It's not
it
illegal.
usually they call it slow burning schizophrenia.
No, that's slightly different, but
But I mean, it's something different, but basically the same.
slow burning is not a term I recognise in any classification. Not a term I use either, to be honest. But
It's not a Western.
I'm not sure if it's quite the same. I think it probably, slow burning has the connotation of insidious onset.
No, that's not it. It was used in Russia
Right, I don't know that term.
as an excuse
No.
for locking people up. Anyhow, you've got schizophrenia and then you've got paranoid schizophrenia. 1,500 there. I don't know what they have here. All of this you got around 1,600 and all the other types. So, and then you got the mental health, blah blah blah.
And there's
So you got
depression,
1,500.
anxiety, lots of problems.
Yeah. Okay, let's say you got 3,000. Now that area, is that for everybody that goes from Lily Road to North Acton to Felton?
It's everything in the whole of local services, which is the London boroughs of Hounslow, Hammersmith and Fulham Ealing.
Okay, then all right. So that's 3,000 cases of schizophrenia. Oh, this is terrible. Here it is. The total number of autism, childhood autism, are those children with autism?
Yes, the Trust provides services for children as well.
Okay then, okay. Now, is that not picked up in education?
Oh, commonly is,
Sometimes,
yes.
Okay, so that's why there's only 14 here.
Well, most people with autism and Asperger's syndrome are not dealt with by mental health services.
Okay.
They're dealt with by the voluntary sector.
Okay. People that are adults with mental health, they weren't really...
by GPs, not everybody comes to the mental health service.
Okay. People with mental health, they weren't really looking out for it in the 70s or the 80s, they're my age.
Yeah, that's true, and it's certainly true that, people are more aware of the possibility of a diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome now than they were maybe even 10 years ago.
It's not Asperger's, it's autism in general.
Autism in general,
There's
yes,
atypical
true,
autism,
that's
there's
quite so.
Asperger's, there's childhood and all the rest of it. Now the question is as follows. Autism in the autistic spectrum is supposed to be nearly half of 1% of the population.
All you're seeing there is the cases that the Trust see. I'm not saying that's not a reliable indicator of the population prevalence of those conditions.
That's all that the Trust sees. Now in the adult population, schizophrenia is slightly less. There's 3,000 cases of schizophrenia and there's only around 40 cases of autism.
Yeah, that's because the main business of the Trust is dealing with major mental illnesses like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder and depression and so on. Autism and Asperger's syndrome and so on, and things that mostly the voluntary sector provides support with. Most of the services, because they're not really seen as mental illness. I mean, Asperger's syndrome isn't a mental illness; it's a developmental disorder, really.
Okay, so if you got people...
I know it's classified in the international classifications. It's seen as a developmental problem, and it's not something that the Trust has a big role in providing for. Most of the provision for things like autism and Asperger's syndrome is in fact in social services and local, in the voluntary sector and so on. For example, there's an Asperger's service, an autism Asperger's service available at in Ladbroke Grove, which is a voluntary sector organisation, which the people that have, get referred to for support regarding their
Now, will that not be
diagnosis.
counted under WLMHT?
Yeah, it's a voluntary organisation.
It's a voluntary organisation.
Mm.
I'm with the
It's not
national...
part of the National Health Service.
Okay.
But it's not. It doesn't cost to be involved. It's a voluntary organisation. It's
If you're...
a range of bodies. It's a free service. It's not something that they charge for.
Okay, so if you're looking out for autism in adulthood, and you've been doing it for the last 20 years, how come you got 3,000 paranoid schizophrenia and you've only got 30 autism?
That's because most people with autism, as I say, don't come to mental health services. They come. They go through their GPs. They use voluntary sector organisations for services.
Do you think it's possible that people with schizophrenia, seen as diagnosed with schizophrenia, could be diagnosed with schizophrenia when they actually have autism, considering not a single diagnosis
There
of
is a
autism?
possibility of that, yes. I
If
don't
that's a
doubt
possibility,
that. And I'm sure mistakes have been made.
if that's a
in relation to that.
possibility,
Principally in relation to the diagnosis of what's called simple schizophrenia, where there are not, the kind of phenomena that one sees in the other kinds of schizophrenia, where the diagnosis is a bit softer, if you like. And you were saying about, isn't this diagnosis simple schizophrenia illegal? Well, it is a diagnosis that we slightly frown upon and we discourage, really, because the evidence base for making a diagnosis at that time is limited. I mean, you have to make very subjective kind of judgments and so on. You don't see the hard phenomena of psychosis. And I'm sure that there are quite a few people who've got labels of simple schizophrenia who may have had Asperger's syndrome or other kinds of autism, and may still even today, maybe. But I think in your case there seem to be other kinds of symptoms as well, which are a bit more hard-edged type symptoms, which do warrant the diagnosis of schizophrenia. And as I say, it's not a permanent condition or a kind of person. We're talking about an illness which can come and go. So because you had those kinds of symptoms in the past doesn't mean you have them now. But we can't just simply wipe out the past and say that it didn't happen, because the symptoms are not occurring now.
Okay, you made it based on admission number 1 to the hospital. How come admission number 1 is missing?
The summary is not missing. I think the admission, the first admission to a hospital was when the hospital had paper notes, didn't have a computerized notes. And I asked the people to find the paper notes, and they couldn't find the paper notes. So we had to go, they couldn't find all of them. They found some of the paper notes. They found the community paper notes, but not the inpatient paper notes. And so we had to rely on the summary of that admission, of the admissions that was in the paper, in the community paper notes. But those summaries explain, the process of what happened when you were in hospital, the symptoms that you experienced at the time, and so on.
Oh, okay, it's all very interesting. What I'd really like to know is the actual mediation. For me to be here, I just can't come here on a limb and start mouthing off to you like this. I have to give you a mediation presentation with commentary on the mediation presentation. Now, I've done that all in advance, and I put a lot of work into it, and I thought it was unfair for me to have to do that. Now,
I think we've produced a report, and we're willing to discuss it, and if you want to raise, it seemed to me they were the main issues that you raised.
What's the report?
Yeah, the main
That's
issues.
for the response.
Yeah, the main issues that you raised in your response in your meeting was the issue about the dual diagnosis issue, and it was the issue about the prevalence of autism amongst the diagnoses in the trust. And I suppose what I'm trying to do is to give you some explanation of those two things.
Okay, what is your job title as a doctor in regards to the head of these departments? What is it?
Consultant psychiatrist.
Yeah, but your policy maker over the psychosis teams and the recovery teams.
I'm the consultant psychiatrist for the early intervention and psychosis team here. Yeah.
Okay, could you look into the fact that a lot of people with schizophrenia I'm talking to now seem to say that they have a personality disorder. In the ebb and the flow of things, have you ebbed and flowed a lot of people with schizophrenia and recategorised them in the last few years as personality disorder?
No, I wouldn't think so. No, no.
No, and so in order to prove that, I need these stats in the spreadsheet to go back 10 years.
These are all questions that I think are extraneous to your treatment.
It is. I've only got 20 minutes left. And see what I'm doing is I'm letting you talk all the talk. And now I'm going to go through this nonsense.
These things are a bit extraneous.
Okay, I need just one reassurance off you before I leave.
For your complaint.
Just one reassurance. Right. Susie Payne is supposed to have sent you an email. The emails...
She sent me emails from you. Yeah.
Have...
And I have seen the emails.
Been put together with the written points, and at the very top they have audio commentary. The audio commentary was supposed to do in advance what I'm doing now, because that way it would help you do your research, and you take on board the audio commentary that was a critique of your response, and listen to that and say as to why or not that audio commentary holds up. Are you willing to look at my mediation presentation?
I I'm not sure that we can, I mean, I can have a look to see if I've got any audios that I can listen to. I'm not sure that we've got the technology to listen to audios, but we can have a look on.
Yes, you do actually.
Right.
If you have a computer, you've
Right.
got the earphone jacks in them.
Right. It depends on how much time is involved. It may take some time, but I don't have a lot of time to do that. But I can have a look and see what I, you know, how long are the audios?
Each point, the length of the audio is usually identified at the side. I don't know.
So
It's
it's got
25
number.
megabytes. It's something
Right.
like 15 minutes.
All right, well that's not bad. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
yeah.
But, yeah, I suppose, I'm not sure we're going to get any further than we have today. then.
Okay, we'll go through the points there. Okay, point number 1, second hospital admission.
Mhm.
Why is the first hospital admission missing?
I don't, well, there is report and record of that admission. There's no, I couldn't see a summary of that admission. The paper notes of the inpatient care you received are not available. They seem to have got.
Okay, they're not available. I'll talk about that. Okay. This point here, it feels I might have fulfilled the criteria for diagnosis of schizophrenia.
Who said that? Sorry.
It is noted that during your second hospital admission,
Yeah.
it would appear that you might have fulfilled the criteria. Might having fulfilled the criteria for a diagnosis is guessing a diagnosis. Do you just guess a diagnosis?
No. The reason I put it tentatively like that was because, as well as there being criteria in terms of types of symptoms, there are also criteria for the duration of symptoms. Okay, so what was not clear from the summary was the duration of the symptom experience. So I tried to err on the side of being cautious and not say that it was definitely warranted a diagnosis of schizophrenia, because there weren't the criteria there for the duration. I mean, it wasn't possible to ascertain it because we didn't have the paper notes reporting your day-to-day symptoms during the time that they said, but we had a summary of the admission. And there was at no point during the summary did it state how long you had the symptoms for, you know, how long they were there for, a week, a day, a month, you know, that sort of thing. So that's why we left it very tentative.
Okay.
And the reason
I'm not
why
even
it
going to
came down
respond. I'm
a
not
little
even going to
bit more.
respond to that because you're talking too much. For initial, the initial diagnosis matches the prescription, right? The same prescription I was on for nearly 10 years from the initial diagnosis. Now that prescription was for schizophrenia. So if that was from day 1 of an initial diagnosis on
Well, it
first
may have been
admission,
entirely reasonable diagnosis.
it means that initially they had me down as schizophrenic.
They didn't initially, no.
They just gave me
They
the
put
prescription first.
schizotypal personality initially, didn't they? I think it says that in the report.
I don't know. He said
Schizotypal personality
it was missing.
problem.
Okay.
That's what the discussion in the summary states, that the earlier diagnosis was one of schizotypal personality, and then they changed the view to one of you having a diagnosis of schizophrenia on the basis of, you know, how they saw things when you were in hospital.
Okay. It says I usual persecutory and delusional ideas that I expressed with Dr. Qureshi on the 16th of December, in which he notes, he said he hears voices in his head and he's convinced others can hear and read his thoughts too. He said the voices are so loud that it is sure that they can be heard next door revealed by the wall, the voices in my head. Now at that particular meeting, Nicola Waken was present, and she'll vouch that I've never said I've heard voices, let alone thought I heard voices in my head that are so loud the guy next door can hear.
That's the verbatim account of Dr. Qureshi in your notes.
Could you argue that the reason she didn't